Find out what you did well last year and what you can do better next year is the secret sauce. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the BizDev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I am David Baxter, your host, and I'm joined, per usual, by Gary Voigt. What is up, man?
How you doing? It's freezing down here in Florida. I was
Freezing,
wearing a beanie
huh?
all day, and I know you hate beanies, so I took it off.
I do.
Just for you.
I appreciate that. That takes a lot of control because those things are
Going
trash.
right back on as soon as this is done.
Because you're cold. It's what, 60 degrees outside?
64.
You big baby.
A blistering 64.
It is 48 here today. But yesterday was 70, which is so weird. It's December. It is not even mid-December. It is crazy warm right now.
Last weekend it got to 85 here.
That is
85,
is that normal or is that warm for y'all?
No, that is not normal.
It is so weird.
Normal.
This is normal for us. About 40 to 50 is normal for us. It'll get really cold for a couple weeks in January, maybe February, maybe some snow, but that's about it. We'll get like 1 or 2 days. But we haven't had snow here really in 2-3 years. It's kind of weird. So we don't have a guest this week. It is our end of the year wrap up, which it sounds like it's something that we do every year. This is the first time we've ever done it. So we'll start a tradition. It is the end of the year or early in the 2024s, depending. But it's a good time, I think, to think about planning. I think that's something that every entrepreneur should be doing, whether you're brand new or you've been doing this forever. And I will say that Big Pixel didn't really plan, I would say, for the first 8 years of our existence. We never planned. And there is a quote. It's a Dave Ramsey quote. I can actually attribute this one. Dave Ramsey says the difference between a dream and a vision is a plan. And I think that is really important because if you just dream it, it's never going to happen. But if you plan it, it can. Does that make sense? You look confused.
Yeah, no, I've heard that quote, and it's not from him, but it's the difference between a dream and a goal is a plan.
Dream and a goal. Did I mess it up already?
Yeah.
See?
Useful. I think he quoted someone else too. You're Michael Scotting it all over the place, baby. It's just forget it.
I have no. This is why I shouldn't lead a podcast.
That's why you shouldn't
dream and a
people.
goal. That's right. Dream and a goal. 115 episodes in, and I shouldn't be doing this. Regardless, the same thing. Vision, goal, whatever you want to call it. It is something achievable versus something you're just thinking about. Is Correct. The plan. And for 8 years of our company, I just meandered and just kind of went along with it. And even with our clients, one of the things we talk about is there's maintenance and there is, doing the day-to-day, and then there's strategic thinking. And we try to talk to each of our clients, at least on a quarterly basis, and think about strategically stuff. Because every month they have stuff they want us to do. And it's just a way to maintain, maybe move the needle forward an inch or two. But it's nothing grand. It's nothing big. And so we try to wrap around and say, let's talk about strategic. What do you want to do next year, next quarter, whatever, so that it's not just we're lost and 3 years go by and nothing really has changed, because no one wants that. No one wants to spend money on custom software that's not really changing. It's just maintaining the status quo. That's boring. Boring. So your company's the same thing.
Yeah, and they all have goals. They all have features that they want, or things they wish their software could do. But I think a lot of times they just get hung up on, well, it doesn't do that now, and I don't know how much that would cost, so let's just not worry about it. But that's when the strategic
planning and they don't have big dreams. Some clients do. Some clients do their own strategy. But the point of that is saying, hey, take a moment. And the end of the year, we actually do it in September every year. For the last 3 years, we've been doing it, where we have a leadership retreat. And we have our leadership team come up to Raleigh, typically. Sometimes we thought about leaving, but we keep having them here. But we talk about what we want to do in the next year. So if you haven't done that, strategic planning with your business, now is the time, because you don't want to end up in June of 2024 and not have planned ahead at all, right? You're just meandering and going forward. That's not going to get you where you want to be, whatever that means. So what does that mean? What does strategic planning look like? So my business group follows a path curriculum, whatever that word is that I'm looking for, that we did this year. I don't think we did it the year before, but correct me if I'm wrong, Gary.
We did. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we did. They're just guidelines. They're ways to look at the future and assess the present and past and kind of guide yourself forward.
So just real quick, the way that this works is you look inward, which means you look at your mission statement, you look at your core values. Do those still align with what you want to do, what you want to be? Are they in step? And this really, we did this as a group, but if you haven't already nailed those down as the leader, you need to do that alone and then do it again with your leadership group, because mission and core should be yours. It shouldn't be a committee. It shouldn't be anything. It should be something you can stand behind, and that is something that is guiding the beating heart of your company. That is what's going to create alignment. That's going to create everything. We just promoted Carl, who has been a project manager forever. He is now my director of operations. And where we've decided, if me and him have a disagreement, we are going to use the core values to be the deciding factor. That alignment, right? So if he thinks we should go in path A and path B or whatever, usually this will be really minutia, really small things. Where would the core values say? Where would they lead us? Are we being good stewards? Are we being honest and transparent, et cetera, et cetera? That would guide us. So that's what looking inward is. That's pretty quick. I mean, we did that pretty fast when we did ours.
Yeah. We're also the leadership team is very aware of the core values of the company and the mission. So
I would challenge everyone to ask, depending on how large your company is, but just ask 5 random people at all levels what your core values are, and prepare to be depressed because they don't know they are. If they do know them, then kudos, because that would be amazing. We did that this year. I asked everybody in our Slack channel. I think one guy, Matt in particular, who has been on the podcast, I believe he's the only one who knew all 5 of them.
I think he was the only one that took the half a second to go to our website and look at him on the page too. They're literally on the site. They're in our, like, we have a whole deck on our branding page for it. Like the internal.
That's even sadder because half of them didn't even know where it was, much less what they were. Like, it's literally, yeah, like you're saying, it's right there. But
at least we didn't get wait. We have a website.
What is our website again? See, that doesn't work because our email address is our website. But the other one is looking back, which is looking at the previous year. So that would be, in this case, you'd be looking at this year, 2023, as it's wrapping up. How did that go? You probably, if you've been doing this for a few years, you had goals for 2023. Did you hit them? That's really the big question. Did you hit your goals? In our case, we didn't. 2023, we wanted to be at a certain revenue level. We didn't hit it. And so it starts a whole conversation. Why? Right? Why did we not hit it? Or why did you hit it if you guys knocked it out of the park? That is, and what do we need to improve to move forward? That's what the looking back section is. That was painful to me, that section in particular, because you kind of look out and you're like, yeah, we didn't hit our goals.
Yeah, but I found it to be kind of interesting because it's not that we didn't hit our goals because, we did a bad job or we lost this or lost that or anything like that. You know what I mean? It kind of just helped us evaluate what can be improved. But I mean, to be honest, we were so close that it's still an improvement from the year prior and it's still progress. So,
well, in our case, our
I'm
revenue
glass
goals,
half full kind of.
Well, this year, I will say, 2023. So it's confusing because we were looking at 2022 when we did this in September. 2022 was not a good year for us. It wasn't a bad year.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant.
No, this year was great. No, this year was wonderful. We didn't hit our goals, but we had pretty good goals. So that's
what I was referring to this year.
Yeah. 2022 in our case, 2021 and 2022 had the exact same revenue. We ended up at the exact same place. We had one new client. which was not good. It's not horrible. No clients left. So cool. But we made in 2022, in our case, we made way less profit, almost no profit, because we overhired in 2022. There's a lot of reasons for that. And they were all legitimate. We hired a guy. And this is something that's totally, we could have a whole podcast about this. We made a decision. We hired a guy for a project that never took off. We literally said, you're going to be on this project. And we had been given a verbal for that project, and it didn't happen. So we, as a leadership team and the company at large, had to decide, again, we're not big. Do we keep him when that project did not happen? And we were pleased with his work, and we liked him. He was a good culture fit. And we're like, yeah, we're going to keep him. And that had big repercussions, right? We didn't make any profit in 2022. But we went in knowing that. Like, we weren't upset about it. It was a conscious decision, and we did it.
And we did it for the goal of it paying off for us in the end, and it actually did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking 2023, we almost got our lofty goal. We had 6 new clients, which that sounds funny. If you sell jeans or soap or a physical good, 6 new clients sounds like you're about to go out of business. In our world, we keep clients for years and years.
Yeah, or if you're just making websites or something like smaller like that. 6 new clients, 1 new client. That sounds like we're barely holding on.
Barely holding it together. Yeah, 6 new clients for us is huge because each client generally stays for many years in our world. So to us, in 2022, I think we had 12 clients total. Give you an idea, we had 12 clients. And so adding 6 is a big jump. Anyway, so that's looking back. Anything else you'd like to add on that looking back section?
The looking back part? No. We did inward and back. So now what's next?
Mm-hmm. Next is looking around. What you see is this like SWOT analysis, looking around opportunities, threats, strengths, and weaknesses. I stole this from a C12 member. Instead of SWOT, which is strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, he recommends that you do opportunities and threats first, and then strengths and weaknesses. And the reason he does this is a guy who's been running a very successful business for 30 years. And he says, when you do strengths and weaknesses first, he says it flavors your opportunities and threats. Everything now looks through the lens of what you're good and bad at. Your threats become your weaknesses. Your strengths become your opportunities. He's like, flip it around to do opportunities and threat first, and it will open the door way wider. And so we did that this year. And I agreed with him. It was, I thought, a much better discussion than it had been in the past. Would you agree?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it would make a difference at all until you actually start naming things and trying to actually come up with what are your opportunities and threats. And then when there's a group of people putting out, their ideas and opinions, then you're like, oh yeah, then it does make sense that we did that first this time instead of tainting them with the weaknesses. That one's always tough.
It is tough, but it's worth doing. I think a lot of people, because SWOT has been around forever, and people kind of gloss over it because, I've done this before. But it's a really good tool if you actually invest in it and take a little bit of time to see what's around you. And in our case, there's so many things that are weird in our world. You've got, a year ago, you had crypto and stuff.
In our industry, things change so quick. Yeah. So we
fast.
have to do it every year. Otherwise,
now we have AI, which is, the great unknown. It's like crypto if crypto had any substance. It's NFTs that were useful.
It seems like the future of AI now is becoming more shadowy and unknown. Like at first it was, as soon as there was an API released, everybody offered an AI component to their product. And then everybody needed an AI component to their product. And then things happened with AI that kind of halted, where's it going to go from here? And now it just seems like it's gotten a little bit shadowy. Where
it's a little more uncertain. I think AI is following, not to derail totally, but I think AI is following a very similar flow as self-driving cars. When self-driving cars first, if you go 8, 9 years ago when they first started.
Yeah.
Waymo was starting to really come out. Everyone thought this was going to be easy. I mean, Elon Musk said his cars already did it. That was a dirty lie, but he was perpetuating that myth that this is easy. We've got this solved.
Well, I mean, lane detectors worked, rear view cameras worked, sensors worked, and everything.
Parking
So they figured it
worked.
was just, a little bit more algorithms and software, and we're good.
Yeah, we're good to go. And what they found was, ultimately over years, I mean, it's been many years now since those heydays, that last 10 to 15% of truly driving, like through a neighborhood, a bad weather, that stuff, almost impossible. Just downright almost impossible with our current technology needs. We can drive 80% of the roads, any highways. They're really good. Those super cruises or autopilots or whatever you want to call them, they're very good at driving in a straight line and even exiting, turning, basic stuff. But you start going into a neighborhood or a crowded city, things get real ugly. Get bad weather, so now they're almost all backing off of that, right? This year, automated cars dropped dramatically. I think AI is following a similar thing. ChatGPT is coming out. Everyone wanted to catch up to it. You have Bard, you have this, that, and the other. And now it's like, okay, now what does it really do? And I think that's where it gets real murky. I'm not saying it's not useful. I'm a big believer in our world will be very different in 5 years. I just don't know what it looks like. I still don't. A year into this fun game, I still don't know. Except for every product now has AI gizmos and doodads, which for the most part, I still don't trust. And I'm a technology freak, right? I love tech, but I don't want anything summarizing my emails. I don't want anyone summarizing my meetings, which right, they all do that now. But if they miss a bullet point in that meeting, my client doesn't care that the AI thing missed it. We missed it, right? So
Yeah.
I just don't. I can't trust it yet. Anyway, so that's looking around.
That was something that we looked around as one of our, I guess you could say, threats to something in our industry. When clients think that they could just use AI to create and build something for them, but it's not.
Well,
really
and we're taking steps. In 2024, a big thing for us just is to go further in AI, to start figuring out what we could do for our clients, for the businesses that we work with, to use AI in a real manner, not fake AI, not trivial, stupid AI that you see all the time now, but real useful stuff that would allow people to use their products in new ways. I mean, that's cool. I think that's something we are going to invest in next year.
Big Pixel builds world-class custom software and amazing apps. Our team of pros puts passion into every one of our projects. Our design-infused development leans heavily on delivering a great experience for our clients and their clients. From startups to enterprises, we can help craft your ideas into real-world products that help your business do better business.
The last one that in this process, it's called looking ahead, right? This one makes sense. You're jumping forward now. What do we want to do next year? What do we want to plan next year? What do we want to improve next year? This is obviously the meat and potatoes when you're planning.
I think there's also one thing to keep in mind. You have to let go of the realistic answer of, well, if we didn't finish everything this year, we have to obviously continue to finish those before we get to any new stuff. Like, take that out of your head for a moment and just pretend you're starting the year fresh from scratch. Everything was done. Where do you want to go forward from that moment?
Find out what you did well last year and what you can do better next year is the secret sauce. I think, like, one of the things that's easy to say, like if you have a 5-year plan, which I recommend everyone having, if you follow Traction or any of those books, they'll tell you do a 10-year plan and then back up to 5, then 3, then 12 months. And all of those are linked together because you can't get to 10 years without knowing what you're doing in the next 12 months. That's ultimately what. But that 10-year plan, of course, is pie in the sky. Or, I mean, my company is 10 years old, or almost 11 now. So like double the age of your company. I mean, I have no idea what that looks like, but it's a nice thought exercise to jump that far ahead. Where would you like a question I think every entrepreneur should ask themselves is, how big do you want to be? And don't cheese out and say, oh, I want to be a $1 billion company. Do you? Do you really want to be a $1 billion company? That's a lot, dude. That's hundreds, if not thousands of employees. That's a very specific culture. That's lots of people spread out doing lots of things. It sounds good on paper, $1 billion company. Cool. But do you really want to run that company? I certainly don't. I have zero interest in running a company anywhere close to that large. So you need to ask, I think everyone needs to ask themselves, what is big? What is what you want to be? In my case, being specific, I have always said that I want a company that is 10 developers and support staff. And using those numbers now, we are about halfway there. And we've been growing pretty quickly. So at that rate, we should be at that size in 3 to 5 years, which is weird. And I've always reserved the right to change my mind once we get to that size.
Yeah. It depends on how good that support staff is. If you got everybody else doing like a really, really good job maintaining and keeping up with everything, and it's easier for you as the owner or the founder to like run the company, but with all the help, like really good quality help, then you probably think, okay, well, we might want to get a little bit bigger. How much more can we handle?
But even if you do, like, it's easy. Say you're managed well, right? Say you've got great leadership teams and managers and whatever, and it's not painful, as you know, you've been able to let go, and you've been able to, now you are the true CEO, the visionary, whatever you want to call that. But you still have a different company, right? If we doubled in size, we'd be about 30 people, right?
Yeah, it's going to be dramatically
people,
different from, I guess you could
that's
say, the culture perspective, or
your culture, right?
The interactions and relationships.
We're already getting to the point where I don't know everybody. There are some people that I don't interact with hardly at all in our company. I do not like that. That rubs me wrong, because that's not been the case for 10 years. If we were 30 people, yeah, that's weird. I'm not saying I'm not against it by any stretch, but that will take adjustment for me, because I'm a people person. I want to know everybody who's working with me, not just did I interview them. You get to the point where you're not even interviewing everybody, right? I mean, that's weird. You're hiring people that you've never met. There's one person in the company. She's a contractor technically, but she is been with us for almost a year or so. I've never met her. That's really weird to me. I didn't hire her. I didn't do anything about it. She was hired by Christy. And I've just never met her. Didn't need to, no need. So she was not a full-time hire. So if you're a full-time hire, I meet everybody. But that's just weird. That was the first time that's ever happened. But anyway, it's worth it when you're looking ahead. If you've never done the 10-year plan and gone backwards, it's worth doing. You don't have to update the 10-year plan every year. You probably should update the 3-year plan every year. And you 100% have to update the 12-month plan every year. Knowing what you know this year, at the end of this year, what does next year look like? It shouldn't be, I didn't make my goals, so I failed. No, that's not it at all. What did you learn? What do you move forward with? Would you add anything else?
I know like the 5-year and 10-year goals can seem lofty. And sometimes I think you got to take yourself out of the realistic approach, like you said, pie in the sky type stuff, which makes sense. I think, yeah, you have to actually, a lot of times people will say like, well, this would be great if I could, but then this factor, and this factor aren't going to, allow that to happen for that length of time until this happens. You know what I mean? People start doing the logic math in their head of probability of what could and couldn't happen based on the span of time. But it's just a fun exercise to think, how cool would it be if the company did grow to this size, or did be able to work with this client, or was able to produce this many things, or, even won this award for something we achieved? Just stuff like that. It doesn't have to be nitty gritty, realistic, detailed when you're out 5 and 10 years. That's what the 3 and the 1 year and the 12 months, when you start backtracking it, then you start realizing, okay, what do we actually have to do for that? Then you can start throwing in the logic and the realism.
The one caveat I'd put to that is if you're brand new, startup mode, you're in survival mode, you're just, you're either pre-revenue or you're just barely making ends meet, be careful because I've used the term many times, the before you're awesome and once you're awesome, right? Those are two phases in every startup's life. Before you're awesome means no one knows who you are. No one cares. You're in that struggle, that survival mode. Slog is another way to call that. And then once you're awesome means now you've got some money in your bank. You've got some clients. You've got some gravity. Those two companies are often very, very different. The what you've built, even if you're talking tech, the stuff you build before you're awesome compared to what you can build. And I'll use a cheesy example. If you want to integrate with, say, a big player, right? Whatever big, you want to do Amazon kind of stuff where you're talking to big vendors. They're not going to talk to you when you're tiny, right? So you can't build that, even though that's in your dream. I'm going to integrate with Adobe and I'm going to do this cool thing. They're not going to talk to you while you're pre-revenue. But once you are awesome and once you've caught their attention because you have real money and real clients and this, that, and the other, doors open, things change. And so when you're planning ahead, there's a very big thing, the before and after. So, okay, 3 years, I'm going to make up in my mind that we're going to be awesome in 3 years. Yeah. Okay, then bam, now we're going to plan as though I'm awesome. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, but it's all part of the planning. That first stuff, those first 3 years, just be realistic. Just try to be realistic on that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Don't stop yourself from the after we're awesome planning just because you're not awesome yet.
That's fair. But also don't get ahead of yourself. I think it's kind of where I was putting the brakes on. Whatever.
Like I said, glass half full from this side.
But I if you aren't planning, why aren't you planning? Because if you're not, you don't know where you're going if you don't plan. You're driving without a map, man. You got to do it. So it is a good time to do it. If this is the first time you're doing it, next year, do it earlier. I think it's a good third quarter, fourth quarter kind of thing, as opposed to it's January or God forbid, February, March, where you're planning 2024. You're already behind, right? So if this is the first time you're thinking about it and it's end of December, early January, that's fine. Get it done. But the next year, start earlier. It'll just save you a lot of time and grief and give you a real plan to move forward.
Can't improve what you don't measure.
I wish I could attribute that. That's a great quote.
I was about to attribute it to you, and then you were going to attribute it to someone else, and then I could Michael Scott your Michael Scottness.
I say it all the time, but I certainly did not make it up. But it's 100% true. If you're not measuring it, and that can be anything from your culture to your deliverables, to your products, to your clients, to your client satisfaction, all of those things, everything can be measured. How good your people are can be measured. How good your clients are could be measured. We were talking about this, me and Carl were talking about this the other day. There's a famous graph, and think of the classic quadrants, right? Got the T graph, and it's basically the X and Y axis. X is how much money a client makes you, and Y is how big of a pain in the butt they are.
Yeah, aggravation versus.
This is a great thing. If you haven't done this, at least on a high level, I highly recommend it. What you want is the top right quadrant, which is, of course, the magic spot. That means you make a lot of money and they're easy to work with, right? The bottom left quadrant would be the worst, which means you make less money or no money and they're a huge pain in the butt. If you have clients in that bottom left quadrant, you should fire them, which probably gives most owners absolute hives if you are a new company.
If they're your only clients and they're in that bottom quadrant, you can't quite fire them, but you start thinking a little bit differently about how you might be presenting, what you can and can't do, and who you're presenting to. So,
how do you not get any more of those? Get better clients. It's so interesting to me when I started out. So I was digging around last week. I worked a lot of hours in the last couple of weeks, and so I find myself at night when no one's asking me anything. Every once in a while, I need a break. And I start doing random stuff. So I found
go into your jobs folder and sort by date That's what I do too.
Yeah.
Go to the jobs folder, sort by date, go to the bottom, open up stuff, and just laugh.
Some of the oldest sites Gary and I ever worked on together, we're talking 2008, 2009. And I was showing them to the team just how cheesy some of the copy was and stuff. My original company was called Visionary Online, which is so grandiose and self-righteous. But it was fun going through that and seeing that. But those original websites, I was charging $300 and $500 for. And to think, how different things are now and how what we build is so different. It's really interesting. I don't know how I got onto this random track.
We were talking about firing clients and then eventually getting the clients that you deserve and need. But yeah, you do have to go through the stuff where at first you can't fire clients if you just need clients. I remember when I started doing like freelance design work on the side and doing logos, I would do I think I would go way overboard and deliver like 10 to 15 examples and all these revisions and then brand colors and alignments and how it would look, mock-ups and stuff for like $150. It was way too much work for way too little money.
Amount of work.
Yeah.
Crazy amount of work you would do back then. Yeah, some of my old sites I can't run anymore because they had Flash in them. And that is, verboten in browsers today. But it's really interesting. It's if you've been around for a little while to go look at some of your early stuff, whatever your early designs were, or, mock-ups or prototypes, it's worth sometimes to look back and see how far you've come. It is navel gazing, of course, but it's worth looking back and seeing, look, you can do this, reminding yourself. Because every year brings new difficulties, new challenges. And if you start looking back at your past, you can see you've done this before. You've done the hard thing. You've made hard decisions and you succeeded or you learned. There's no fail.
And you're always going to see the improvement. There's always going to be some improvement that you can glean from and just be like, yeah, okay. So, I'm not getting worse. That's for sure.
So I think it's a good time at the end of the year to do all that. Okay, that's enough navel gazing. Is there anything else you want to end the
what does
year
navel
with?
Gazing meaning? That's like a weird Texas thing.
You've never heard that phrase?
I've heard
I don't know where
plenty of times, but I'm too embarrassed to ask what it means because
navel gazing means you're staring at your own belly button. Right?
Yeah, I know, but I don't understand.
You're just contemplating your own existence.
Well, that's obviously the direct thing, but how is that related to looking at your old work?
Because you're looking at yourself. You're staring at your own stuff. Okay. You're seeing your own importance, good or bad, right? You're not.
Don't worry. It took me a long time to figure out what drinking the Kool-Aid meant because I never really bothered to ask either.
I'm not allowed to say that anymore. I was told that is insensitive and wrong, so I'm not allowed to say that anymore, which is really hard.
I got a funny story. Right? So I worked for this corporate media company for 13 years, right? And my direct boss would use that phrase a lot, and everybody, like in meetings, would say it, and then everybody nod along, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. And then finally, like,
no one knows
after
where
being
that
there
comes
about
from.
10 years, I know where it comes from.
Sure,
because I asked,
but most people don't.
Yeah. But finally, I was like, you know what? I don't understand the Kool-Aid thing. And everybody just looked at me shocked. Like, you've been agreeing with us for like 10 years and you never, like, what do you mean? You don't know what it means? Like, I don't know what it means. Everybody else is nodding their head. And I figured it's just like an inside joke that I'm eventually going to get, but never got. So I finally started thinking, okay, I got to ask because I'm being left out for some reason. But then when I found out what it was, and I was like, okay, that's
dark.
Corny. That's dark.
Well, yeah. I wish there was a happier version because the concept is real, right? I mean, drinking the Kool-Aid means you're all
the happier version is just smile and wave. Just smile and wave.
You're all on the same page. You're all moving in the same direction. The book that I'm reading right now, which is called Rocket Fuel, they call it getting all of the arrows pointing the same direction. If you are if you're a company and you shoot a bunch of arrows, the idea is each employee is an arrow in your quiver, and you shoot them all out. If they're all pointed in different directions, you're not going to get very much. You're not going to hit very many targets. So the idea is a good integrator.
It's another death reference.
Is someone who can
it's even
move
a wartime
the arrows.
Death reference. That's dark too.
Yes, or shooting somebody. But yeah, getting all on the same page is basically what drinking the Kool-Aid means. If you are too young and you want to look at the real thing, look in the 70s, and it's very sad. When I look back at the year, it's been a really good year. We've had a very successful year, which is nice. We don't always have those. Sometimes we've never had a bad year, I should say. We've had some meh years that growth wasn't what we wanted it to be, but we've never had a bad year. So that's a blessing. I am very pleased and excited about 2024.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's probably what I would verbalize then, that I feel like there's momentum going into the next year. So how I'm ending this year would be
excited. I want to land this plane. We've had, this has been a rough December for us, only because we've had people out and we've had lots of stuff we have to do, and a lot of that's just fallen on me. So I've been working like 80-hour weeks. 80-hour months. Those are tough, man. Those 80-hour months.
CEO time.
Yeah, there's a lot of golf, man. No, I don't play golf. I did take a course in college of golf. It's so interesting. When I'm in the business group, I ask, who plays golf still? Like, is that still a thing? And the answer is yes. It absolutely is a thing. That is still a place where you wine and dine. And there are still young people who are learning to golf. Like, we're talking 20-year-olds learning to golf so that they can wine and dine their people. And I've never learned to play golf, so that's never been my world. But schmoozing, man, golfing, you're stuck with someone and you get to talk to them for a long period of time. That's ultimately what it is. Anyway, so I'm ready to end the year. We've worked very, very hard. We've done a lot of really good work. We've built a lot of really cool things. And so I'm ready. We always close the last week of the year to celebrate Christmas and to spend time with our families. And so I'm looking forward to that very much. And then hitting the ground running in January. Because I don't think normally in our world, we slow way down in November and December, January, February. It's just our cycle. I don't think we're going to get that this year. I think in January, we're going to hit the ground at a dead sprint, which is weird, but very cool.
Yeah, I don't think the ball is going to stop rolling at all. But I think we've built up enough momentum from the successes that we've had this year that going forward's looking pretty exciting, actually.
To everyone listening, thank you so much for a great year. Thank you for joining us. We have been experimenting all year long. We have found some pretty good footing. We've had some amazing guests, and we've really, really enjoyed this, and we're going to continue to keep doing this. But if there are paths you want us to take, questions you want us to answer, let us know, because we're all experimenting here. We're just seeing what's fun to do. I mean, this isn't, we don't have any ulterior motives here. So anything that we find interesting, we want to do.
And to mirror that, thank you to every one of the guests that we've had. Thank you to every one of the guests we've had. And we're going to have some more guests coming up. So that's not ending just because it's been me and David for the last couple months. No. We have more guests lined up. So
get some rest. Don't forget, no matter if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing a side gig or whatever, you still got to rest, man. So get some. Enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you in 2024.
Hi, I'm Christy Pronto, Content Marketing Director here at Big Pixel. Thank you for listening to this episode of the BizDev Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email, hello@thebigpixel.net. The BizDev Podcast is produced and presented by Big Pixel. See you next week. Until then, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and LinkedIn.